Hello and welcome to the first of four short summaries going over the major and notable hurricanes of 2004. We are starting off, of course, chronologically with Hurricane Charley. Hurricane Charley, as does any hurricane, whether it be maxing out as a depression or a Category 5, starts off as a tropical wave somewhere, develops into a depression. This depression was TD3. TD3 formed on August 9th, around 185 kilometers to the south-southeast of Barbados. This depression then gains the name of Charley and also becomes a tropical storm on the next day, despite this area generally just not being a very nice place for the development of tropical systems. Usually there is a fair bit of shear or cooler sea temperatures or both involved. Um, Not necessarily cooler sea temperatures, actually. This is pretty close to the equator, but so it's usually shear. In any case, the point is that this is just where the pale blue dots are down here in the early track of Charley is just abnormal for tropical storm development, and so that's the main point there. Moving on in Charley's timeline, a ridge, a high pressure, is encountered, and as we know, high pressures bully low pressures have to move around them, and Charley is no exception, and it turns to the north. At this point, on the 11th, Charley also becomes a hurricane. By around these points in time, as it is a hurricane and strengthening ever so slightly, or just over course of time, Charley only passes 64 kilometers of Jamaica and only 24 kilometers from Grand Cayman. This is not a small distance, especially in terms of a hurricane at all. By August 13th, Charley landfalls on Punta Caymas. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. And it did so with wind speeds of 120 miles per hour. The same day, Charley peaks at 150 miles per hour, a relative surprise because it was not expected for Charley to strengthen to that wind speed so fast, and also reached a pressure of 941 millibars. Charley then weakens pretty rapidly after this peak and landfalls around Cayo Costa, Florida. Charley would cause 35 deaths, 20 of them being indirect, and a total of $16.9 billion in damage. Charley was, again, a Category 4 nearly directly before landfall, and so the intensity of the winds, as well as where Charley made landfall, uh, left a fairly large number of people unprepared. Again, not only with the intensity, but many had assumed that because where Tampa and where Cayo Costa is, it was in the forecast cone, a which is a region of error for the hurricane tracks that are proposed. Many latched on to the idea that Charley would go a little bit more north and towards Tampa. However, this did not happen. In fact, several local meteorologists around the Punta Gorda area, where Cayo Costa is around, went off script and made the prediction of it landing not at Tampa, but closer to where it would actually make landfall. So, kind of unprepared, but also prepared. Just that the evacuations were more centered towards Tampa and not a little bit further south, is the biggest thing here. A total of 1.42 million people were evacuated in Florida, which is not a small number at all. And MacDill Air Force Base would actually move their operations to its forward headquarters, which at the time was in Doha, Qatar. They also minimalized their staff extremely heavily by like, I think it was upwards of 90%. Banana farms would be extremely heavily damaged in Jamaica. However, the most notable impact that Charley had was that it closed Animal Kingdom. Like, how how dare Charley do this? This is absolutely unbelievable. In other news, more than 2,000 homes were damaged in both of the Carolinas, and both received $20 million in damage or whatever. But we're more focused on Animal Kingdom being closed. There would also be 5 tornadoes in South Carolina, one of them being an F2, but whatever, Animal Kingdom was still closed and I couldn't go even though I was 3 years old. I'm upset. Obviously, the significance of Charley is that it closed Animal Kingdom. Just kidding. There's a lot more. There's a lot more to this. Um, like I mentioned earlier, several local meteorologists. There will actually be a way back time machine article about the meteorologists in the description that predicted the Punta Gorda landfall, not the Tampa landfall. Charley was the first of 4 hurricanes to strike Florida in 2004, and one of 5 to cause Florida to experience hurricane force winds. Charley was the strongest U.S. landfall since 1992's Andrew, which is pretty damn impressive and a very good thing that such a long gap was measured. That's 1992 to 2004. And it was also the strongest southwestern Floridian landfall until Ian, which was relatively recently announced. It was actually a Category 5 directly before landfall. This was also the strongest hurricane to affect South Carolina since Hugo of 1989. And you can see that very notably here, the Dry Tortugas, a smaller island chain, was struck only 22 hours after Hurricane Bonnie had struck the same area. This was the first time that an area in the U.S. had been struck by 2 separate hurricanes within the span of 24 hours. Not just like 36, but less than a day. Also very notably would be that the name Charley would be retired, so the name Charley is no longer able to be used. Instead, for the 2010 name list, since the names rotate, Colin was introduced, and I'm pretty sure Colin hasn't been retired. I could be wrong on that, but that, folks, is all that I have for Hurricane Charley. Again, the first of 4 notable hurricanes of 2004. I hope that you all learned something from this one and enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you all so much for watching.